So you want to build a glamping site, but you don't know how to choose what's right for your situation or your area? Well, I'm going to show you how to find out what the best option is for you. I'm going to go over the 10 criteria that you need to use in order to determine what is the right glamping setup for you. So let's get started. The first that I'm not going to spend a ton of time on is zoning and permitting. You are going to need to find out if your local laws will even allow you to put up a legal glamping site. You want to go through this step first and foremost because you don't want to get shut down by the county. You want to put up a business that is going to be in operations in perpetuity, that is going to earn revenue for years to come, and you can only do that if you do it the right way. So spend some time looking up your county's zoning, use table, and permitting requirements to find out what's going to be required. If you want more in-depth information on that, I will link a recent video that I did on that here, and you can watch that after you watch this one. The next most important criteria that you need to keep in mind when it comes to figuring out the right glamping setup for you is your target market. Who are you catering to? Who do you want to visit your glamping site, and what are they going to do when they're there? Why are they coming to the area? For example, do you live near nature and think that your place is going to be great for adventure seekers and hikers? Well, then that's going to help you determine the type of structures that are really going to work for that audience. Adventure seekers are probably going to be fine with more rustic and temporary structures like safari tents. But if you're seeking to cater to couples who want to get away for a romantic vacation, then you're probably going to want to build tiny cabins or tree houses or some other permanent structures that can be made luxurious, because that is what that audience wants. Or you may want to cater to families, so you may need to put up larger structures, and they could be cool with big safari tents, glamping domes, or even cabins. No matter what target market you are going after, be sure that you are establishing the right amenities for that market. Everyone wants things to do when they're staying somewhere on vacation, but depending on the audience, they may want more luxurious things. A couple's getaway is probably going to need a hot tub. A family glamping site is probably going to need an outdoor fire pit and maybe some yard games. So do your research and find out what your target market wants and then provide that. But keep in mind, your target market is also going to determine what size of structure and what type of structure you are going to put up. Families are probably going to need something above 500 square feet, whereas couples and adventure seekers are probably okay with 300 to 500 square feet. Okay, let's move on to the third criteria, and that is budget. Keep in mind that you can spend as little or as much as you want, but a good range to think about if you're going to do temporary structures like safari tents, anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 per structure. And then if you're going the more luxurious and permanent route, those structures like tiny cabins, tree houses, and even luxury domes, those can cost anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 per structure. Keep in mind that these are just for the structures themselves. This does not include plumbing, foundation, septic tank for sewage, a well if you have to dig one to provide water. All of those infrastructure costs are going to be extra. So that's why you have to keep your budget in mind when it comes to the type of structures, because it can vary pretty drastically. Okay, I've already touched on the fourth criteria, but that is infrastructure. For your given area, what type of access to water, electricity, sewage, and roads? Because all of those things are going to matter. Can you tap into what the city or the locality provides, or do you have to create your own? Do you have to dig a well? Do you have to put in a septic? Or are those things not available and you have to do off-grid? All of these considerations are things that you are going to have to keep in mind. Now, the fifth criteria I've touched on a little bit, so I'm just going to go into a little bit more depth here, and that is amenities and facilities. And of course, this should be determined by your target market and what your infrastructure is going to support. And what I mean by this, if you are putting up a family glamp site, for example, families in larger groups are probably going to be okay with a shared bathhouse. They may not need a private kitchen or a private bathroom in their specific dwelling. But couples going for a getaway are probably going to want those private accommodation, and they're probably going to be luxurious. If you're looking for a high dollar amount for your nightly rate, you're going to have to provide more luxurious amenities and facilities. So keep that in mind. The sixth criteria to keep in mind is climate and seasonality. Can you run your glamp site all year because it's warm enough? Or do you have to shut it down for certain months of the year because it's either too hot or too cold? In my area, sometimes it will freeze during the winter. So in the really hard winter months of December, January, and February, I would shut down my glamping site if I had temporary structures like safari tent, because I wouldn't want to risk having to run plumbing and then it freezing when we get a cold snap. So keep your climate and seasonality in mind when determining what type of glamping setup is right for you. Durability and maintenance is the seventh criteria that you need to keep in mind when it comes to determining your glamping setup. It's important to note that the more temporary the structure, the more maintenance it is going to take to keep it clean and to keep it operational. Safari tents and glamping domes are going to get dirty and dusty, and they're going to need to be cleaned on a regular basis. So you're either going to have to be located very close to your glamp site so that you can do this yourself, or you're going to have to hire that out and make sure that you build in the budget to do that. Also, temporary structures that have vinyl or cloth coverings won't last forever. You're going to have those coverings replaced every several years. Let's go on to the eighth criteria, and that is competition and uniqueness. So when it comes to deciding what type of glamping setup is right for you, think about what your competition is doing and how well they're doing it. If you want to do safari tents, are there others in your area, and what do they look like on the inside? How is the decor? What amenities do they offer? And you're going to want to do better than what they're doing. Keep in mind that as more and more short-term rental operators come online, travelers have many more options. So you're going to want to make sure that yours really stands out. And if you have the budget for it, include really high-end amenities like a hot tub, a fire pit, things like s'mores, maybe a bottle of wine, anything that you can do to stand out from your competition. And you're going to want to think about your ability to maintain a process and system to keep all of those things in good operating order and in stock. So if your location is super remote and you don't have any nearby support like handymen and other technicians, maybe a hot tub isn't the right thing to put at your glamping site. Now, before I get into the final two consideration that you need to keep in mind for determining your glamping setup, please hit like if you found the content in this video helpful, and subscribe for more content like this. The ninth criteria to keep in mind in terms of determining the right glamping setup for you is insurance and liability. You're running a business and you want to protect that business. Accidents happen, and that is the purpose of insurance, to cover you in the event that something unforeseen occurs. So talk with a local insurance broker to find out for the type of glamping setup you would like to do, what types of insurance they offer, and how much it costs. And keep in mind, when your structures are properly permitted by the city, the more likely it is that an insurance carrier is going to offer you coverage. The 10th and final consideration when it comes to determining the glamping setup that's right for you is exit strategy. Now, do you plan on operating this glamping site forever? If not, think about how you can exit the business. Do you want to be able to sell it? If so, that means you are going to need to have a proper business. And like I've said all along, make sure that these are properly permitted structures, that you maintain them well, and that you have all of the amenities that are going to be needed to have your business thrive for years to come. That is going to make it much more likely that an investor will come in and purchase that business from you. As an example of this, Shelby Church did a video on the Onera Lodge glamping site in Fredericksburg, Texas. And that glamping site was so amazing. It had a mix of soft-sided and hard-sided structures, and it performed so well that a real estate investment trust purchased that business and gave him funding to construct a new one. So that's really the standard here, is you want to build your business to the level where investors would love to come and support your work. So that's it. Those are the 10 considerations to keep in mind when determining the glamping setup that's right for you. To become an Airbnb host, my referral link is down below. You will earn $75 after hosting your first guest. If you want my recommendations for how to furnish and decorate your Airbnbs, all of my links are down below for the items that I have purchased. I hope you found today's video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.